Hi everyone. We're going to look at why consumers buy. What motivates them? What really is behind their purchases? And to do that, we're going to use the means-end chain theory to help us figure that out. The means-end chain theory will give us a structure to kind of understand how consumers think and feel about what they buy and what they do. It gives us good insight into understanding why consumers behave as they do, even if they don't really understand why. And most important, it provides a structure for us to get better understanding of what our consumers really want, how to make our brands better, and also it enables us to make even better marketing communications and promotional strategies. A means-end chain really consists of three parts. The first is a brand's features or attributes. Those are things about the brand that do something. The second part is meaningful consequences that are delivered by the brand's attributes or features. Consequences can be positive, good, or negative. Finally, the third part is the idea that these meaningful consequences are consistent with important personal values or goals held by the consumer. In other words, personal values and goals are what's really important to the consumer, even if they're not really aware of it. So, the means-end chain says that we buy brands because their features deliver important consequences, in other words, benefits, that help us reach important personal values and goals. For example, we like to wear fashionable designer brands of clothing because looking good often makes us feel good. And it also helps us feel more attractive to others. This is important because we all have a desire to be socially acceptable and ultimately want to have romantic happiness and fulfillment. The means-end chain also provides some important implications that will help us as marketers. First of all, consumers have goals and they seek to fulfill them, even if they aren't directly aware of that. That means that marketers need to understand the goals that consumers are trying to fulfill when they design their products and communications. Consumers consider both positive and negative consequences of brands. It's not all good. Third, brands and marketers that can do a better job fulfilling consumer goals should be the winners because they will be more desirable and valuable to consumers. Let's give the means-end chain a little structure. Product features lead to consequences, which help fulfill important values. So features and values are linked together. The stuff that marketers put in their brands, are linked to important values through the consequences they provide. We're going to look a little bit more depth at some of the different aspects of features, consequences, and values in the upcoming minutes. Product features can be concrete or abstract. Benefits or liabilities can be functional, experiential, or psychosocial. This you should know from previous marketing classes. And finally, values, which are kind of the most abstract and, for lack of a better term, mushiest type of thing, can either be instrumental or terminal. Let's look a little closer at features. Features or attributes are just characteristics of the brand. They're something that has a name. They have no value unless they deliver some type of consequence, a benefit. Characteristics or features or attributes can be concrete or abstract. Concrete features are tangible. They're something you can touch, that you can point to. For example, on a car, concrete features are ABS brakes, GPS, leather seats, turbocharger, anything like that. Abstract features are a little trickier. They're intangible often, that there aren't a specific thing. Usually they're made out of a summary or a constellation of concrete attributes. For example, for a car with good styling might be because the lines of the car in the sheet metal and also the grille. The color has something to do with it. The alloy wheels, the way the lights are fashioned on the car. All those things kind of contribute to this thing called styling. For example, for performance, a lot of the top cars like BMW and Mercedes, to enhance perceptions of performance, they actually broadcast engine noise to the car's audio system. Perceptions of quality are influenced by the country of origin. That usually we perceive Japanese and German cars to be better made, have higher quality than American cars. The features of a brand deliver consequences. Consequences are basically what a brand does for us or says about us, and that can be either a benefit or a liability. Functional consequences are those consequences that help us accomplish a goal. It's a means to an end. For example, the functional consequence of benefit for a car is it gets us to work or school so that we can go further in our life. A negative consequence would be the fact that a car might cost $500 a month in car payments and insurance payments. Psychosocial consequences really have two parts. First of all, there's the idea of status, what the brand or the product says to others. So if I have a hot car, then people may perceive me as being a hot person. On the other hand, it could be negative. If I show up to school in a red convertible, people might see me as having a midlife crisis and view me as being desperate. Also, we can think of psychosocial consequences as how it makes us feel about ourselves, self-esteem. So if I purchase a Lexus, it may mean a lot to me because now I feel I've made it as an adult and a professional. On the other hand, I might say, gee, I just spent $50,000. I'm such an idiot because now I have less money for retirement. Experiential consequences have to do with the central nature of a brand, how you experience it on a visceral level. For example, let's say you're considering purchasing a car that is very, very fast because it has a powerful engine and high performance. For some of you, you might get a rush from driving really fast. Others might get anxiety over the fact that it's so powerful that they might be more likely to get into an accident. Relationship among the consequences is usually thought to be that functional and experiential consequences lead to psychosocial consequences, which are more likely to lead to important values. I wouldn't say this is always true, but most of the time that's the case. Let's look at an example now. So we have a concrete attribute. A car has a 400 horsepower engine. That makes it really fast. Fast is really an abstract attribute or feature. You really can't say what it is. And there's lots of things that make a car feel fast. Not only the speed, but the sound of the motor, all that kind of stuff. That's going to make me feel exhilaration. All right, it's going to give me a rush. The psychosocial consequence, the benefit is that it makes me feel alive. So there we have kind of a means-end chain part for features. Concrete feature to an abstract feature to a experiential feature to a psychosocial feature. Now, does every case have to have all of the different features in there or consequences? No, it doesn't. So don't worry about that when we learn to uncover the means-end chains that drive different people's purchase behaviors. Values are the last part of the means-end chain. Brands have features, that deliver meaningful consequences, and those consequences are only meaningful because they help us achieve or reach important values. It's always difficult to explain exactly what a value is. I think the two ways that work best are, first, it's what do you want to be when you grow up? If you picture yourself as a full adult or at the end of your life, what do you want to have accomplished? A similar way to think about it is imagine that you've died and people are at your gathering for whatever the service that you have. All your friends and family are there, and you're floating above as a spirit where you can hear and see what's going on. What would you want people to say about you? What are the traits, characteristics, the things about you that you would want to hear? Those really are the values that are important to you. Now, there are two types of values. I'm going to give you the two types, even though I find it pretty difficult and perhaps not that meaningful to maintain the distinction. First of all, instrumental values, right, are really behaviors, ways of being that you need to attain terminal values. What that means is a hardworking person that you're loving, that you're willing to take risks. Okay, that is an action, it's a verb. You're willing to do that because you're going to be successful. You're going to be a hard worker at school because you want to be wise. So terminal values are places of being, what you want to be when you grow up, for lack of a better term. And instrumental values are kind of the actions that you have to take in order to get there. The one reason why values are difficult to kind of talk about and also get consumers or others to talk about is because they're personal. We don't think about them very much. Many times they come to us from other sources, our parents, our the way we've been brought up, church, school, sports, whatever, and we really don't have good access to them. But basically it's all about really how we finally want to be, right? And at the end, you could say that most terminal values end up with us being happy. Now, here are just some examples so we can get a little better feel for it. These aren't the only list. These are not inclusive of all, but hey, instrumental value, traits we want to have: ambitious, responsible, honest, loving, courageous, hardworking, independent, because at the end, we want to be successful. We want to have self-respect. We want to have the respect of others. We want to have love. We want to have family security. Freedom's important to us. Okay, all those things, wisdom. Those are terminal values. So whether we know it or not, as consumers and more generally as people, those are the things that we are progressing to through a lot of our behaviors. We don't always. Not all our behaviors move us in that direction. Sometimes we do things that are counter to these values, but overall, much of what we do is done in a way to try to attain these values. So, to review, the means-end chain theory really states that people purchase brands because they do certain things. Whether the feature it does something by itself or in a group, a constellation of other features, so it's an abstract feature, it has some type of consequence. Right? It either provides a benefit, positive consequences, could be a liability, a negative consequence. And these consequences often take the form of functional consequences, where what the brand does is something that helps us achieve an immediate goal. The phone helps us communicate with our friends. It could be an experiential benefit or liability, right? So we talked about driving fast is a rush, and usually they end up in a psychosocial benefit or liability, in that somehow we feel that we are more attractive to others, or maybe we're afraid we won't be attractive to others, or it makes us feel better or perhaps worse about ourselves. These consequences are important because they move us either toward, when they're positive, important values, which are either ways of being hardworking or what we want to be in the end, successful, wise, or if they're negative consequences, if they're liabilities, they could detract, keep us from, move us away from our values. So the idea for marketers in the means-end chain theory is to tie brands and their features to important values that consumers want, okay, by showing them how the features of the brand can deliver the consequences, the benefits that move the consumer closer or toward the values that they have. Now, in our next presentation, we're going to look at specific means and chains related to brands and things like that. So this part is just really an overview of the theory and kind of the structure. Thank you very much.